All right, so this is the Wednesday evening, June 18th, 2025, Shutesbury Cemetery Commissioners meeting, starting at I have 6:09.
Sounds good to me.
N
Okay,
to I.
that's what my computer is telling me it is, so I'll believe it. All right, first thing on the agenda then is review and approve minutes of the May 28th,
Do you want to
2025 meeting.
do a formal check-in?
Oh, I suppose we could. You mean a formal
Calling the roll.
roll call? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay. We have Dina Standard, Susan Millinger,
Here.
and myself, Walter Tibbetts, present here.
Yeah.
And at this point, still no guests waiting in the waiting room. So
Did we have guests, Matt, last month and I missed it?
no, we didn't. No, it was just Susan and myself. But sometimes I was kind of hoping to have one because we had somebody that was interested in doing the groundskeeping at Pratt Corner Road Cemetery,
Yeah, I saw
and
that on the agenda.
I kind of told her, here's the meeting, if you want to chime in, but she did not, and I haven't heard back from her at all since.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Is it
All
someone
right.
we know?
You might know her. Yeah, it was Elizabeth Sheffy.
Oh, her parents, we did a burial for them there.
Yeah, her parents are buried
Parents are
there,
there.
and her husband is buried there. Yeah.
Well, I can send her a note and say, hey, Liz, were you serious about that? Come to
Yeah,
our
well, she seemed to be pretty serious, and I spent some time with her and told her what, it would entail that for her to do that, she would have to, become an employee of the town,
Yeah.
to cover for liability and stuff like that. And I told her, it's not much of a process, but it is a process. You just got to fill out some paperwork and it takes a little bit of time, but it wouldn't be that. And I told her what the pay was, and we talked about how often she'd have to do stuff. And really, those cemeteries are. I mean, you can get away with doing stuff 3 times a year,
I think so, yeah.
and
Unless a
they
tree
still look
falls.
pretty good. Yeah, unless another tree falls down. Uh, but yeah, so I don't know if she's just thinking about it now or not, but we'll
Cool. I'll
we'll
check in
be
with her.
following that up. If you want to follow up with her too, that'd be fine too.
Yeah, I don't mind.
Okay.
That clarifies one of the things I was unsure about in the minutes, which is that I need to take out the phrase in red and add it at the end of the sentence that her parents and husband are buried there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Her parents and her husband are
it's
are buried there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then as for the
yeah.
the expenses, I do have all the warrants right here in front of me, so we can go through those line by line if you want, so we can make sure.
Okay.
On the purchases, yeah, we started with nothing had been purchased. So we started with the full balance of $1,631.
Yep.
And then it was $56.95 for the battery from Interstate Batteries for the mower.
Yep.
$298.35.
Oops, okay, that was wrong.
Yeah,
Yep.
35. And that was for, let's see, that was Home Depot. So that was, oh, that's Devon Lane, excuse me. Yeah, Devon Lane, 298.35. That was for 3 sets of blades for the big mower, 3 oil filters. I bought basically 10 quarts of oil for the mowers, and then a pair of chaps, and that totaled out to the 298.35.
Okay. That
And,
helps.
and then the Home Depot was a total of 123.09. Okay, that's what you had.
Mhm.
And that was the black toolbox, earmuffs. There was some WD-40, some starting fluid and some carburetor and choke cleaner. So 3 different cans of fluids. A 100-foot, just a line reel, piece of line for, extending between stakes when laying stuff out.
Okay,
A 25-foot measuring tape and a 300-foot measuring tape.
okay. Okay, so the things that I was,
Yep.
the red that I was, and the total was 12309. The stuff red was the WD-40 and the carburetor oil
Cleaner, carburetor cleaner, and starting fluid.
starting fluid. Okay.
Yeah.
You name all these things that I know zip about. So
I'm sorry. Feel free to say, slow down. What was that again?
yeah, I should. I should.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
no problem.
so um,
And then there was, in addition, blades not picked up. Yeah, 143.52. That's what they came out as. I did get those. There was 2 sets of blades for the small mower, which we might have to make a modification to make them work, but it was the only thing that he could find in his like 2-inch thick catalog that were even the same length blades. They're
wow,
just, and they can't get the Husqvarna blades anymore. They're just totally not available.
wow.
And there was ones that would cross over, but they were in Germany or something like that, and it would have taken 6 months to get them.
Oh my word.
So,
I think we should anticipate a lot more of this kind of stuff
yeah.
and stuff that like I did this week. I bought a hose for my wash machine a couple weeks ago and I bought 2 of them.
Yep. Yeah.
They were 10
Seems like
bucks
if
a
you buy
piece,
one, you
but
might as well buy 2 or 3. Yeah.
it's gonna go, and I'm just trying to stay ahead in my
Yeah.
head of how to exist in a changing world right now.
Yeah. And basically, these blades are the same length, but the hole size is a little bit different. So I might have to
Right.
either turn or have Lenny turn some spacers to go in there to make them work. But we have 4 sets of blades currently for the mower. So these would be an additional 2. So that's six
That's
sets of
great.
blades. That should take us quite a while, hopefully.
Yeah, no, that kind of redundancy I think is wise at the moment.
Yes. Yeah. Um, so those clips, yeah, I had said $40.15. I think that was with tax. So it was 38.49 for the clips, those plastic clips for the covers on the mowers. It's kind of ridiculous because the shipping is almost as much as the parts are, but they keep the covers on. So
Okay.
kind of needed those. So I think that's it for that. There's been more stuff, so we won't get that mixed up with last month's minutes.
Okay, so that means that there's a different total for those the blades and the clips, right?
Right, a difference by instead of $40.15, it was $38.49. The blades were exactly the same.
So the total would be not the same as it was.
R- Right, that's gonna be different.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Looks like something like 18201. Does that look right?
I'm just gonna, if I can get my phone to clear out here. Why is it when you want it to work, it just locks up?
Life.
It's totally locked up right at the moment. There we go. Starting to do something. I really hate to get a new one, but I'm starting to think I might have to. Okay. So yeah, we had 143.52 plus 38. 49. Yeah, 182.01. Is that what
Okay,
you had?
yep.
Okay.
So that means, okay, so what's the difference between 4015 and 3849? Oh, subtracting.
I mean,
$1.66.
Yeah. So that sum total is probably 166 off plus the 3 cents.
Right.
When up above one, I had 298.32 instead of
Two,
230.
298.35. Yep.
Yeah. So the 654.06 probably needs to have 169 taken off it.
Yep.
And that might be the problem that I was having.
Okay.
I think, yeah, okay, so that if I did this right, that would mean the sum total of all the expenses, all the purchases was 652.37.
Right. That's what I got. Yeah.
Okay.
So then if we took the 1631, is it 1631?
Yeah.
Minus 652.37, be 978.63.
Okay. So that's a little different from what you had
If
left.
I did, if I did that right, let's see. Yeah. 1631 minus 652.37.
Yeah, that's what I get.
Yeah, 978.63. Yeah.
That's what I get it too.
Okay. All right. I think that was right at that time then. I do have the current balances, which we can is on the agenda a little bit further down.
Okay. So I should change the number of leaving in the operating line to 978.63.
Right. Yep.
So up above where I had the after the purchases, there was 1152.61. I
Yeah, I'm not sure. The person.
need to redo that.
Yeah. 1152. Well, yeah, because we had that figured in.
Well, wait a second. The
But
purchase that you'd made in the April meeting, that was last month. That was the April meeting. This is no, oh, okay.
yeah, I've made
This is
more purchases since then, which we
yeah.
haven't talked about.
Oh, okay. So Walter, so this is the May meeting that we're talking about,
Right. Yep.
and uh, so we're having 978.63, and up above it's saying 968.94. Aha.
Yeah, so that should just that should say the 978.63 also.
Yeah,
But it wouldn't be 1,152.61.
it wouldn't.
No, it'd be the 652.37, right? Which we just came up with the total down below, the sum total.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So we have to subtract that from. Wait a second.
Well, you could, I mean, we did,
Yeah, we're subtracting the 652.37 from 115.261 because that's what the total was after the April.
oh, okay.
Wait a second. They were
Now,
authorized to make in the April meeting.
let's see.
Now I'm really getting confused.
Oh, yeah, because we had spent 478. No, because I don't know where that 1152.61 came from, because the interstate batteries, that was the first thing spent out of the expenses.
Uh-huh.
There was nothing before that.
Okay. So,
We probably authorized it in April, but it was really spent in May, and then we talked about it at our May meeting.
yeah, yep, which these are the minutes of. So the 978.63 is what's left, and we should just make that change and just delete
The 1,152, because we had maybe talked about other things, but that wasn't. So I would say current financial status, nothing so far has been spent on the operating line. It was 1,631. And then these purchases, which had been authorized to be made at the April meeting, totaled the 652.37.
yes.
So the 1152 gets crossed out.
Yep.
It should read 652.37, leaving a balance of 978.63.
Yep.
Better brains than mine.
What I think I got to do, what I used to do for the fire department with all my different accounts, is I just did a spreadsheet and had the warrant numbers and the dates on the side. And as I put them into the spreadsheet, it just automatically took the total off. So I always knew, as long as I did my warrants and, put the information in, I always knew exactly what my balance was left, throughout because I was running, you know, between the cemetery and the fire department and emergency management, there was like 8 or so different accounts,
Oh,
plus
wow.
grants and stuff like that. So,
Wow.
it was just so much easier to just do it all in a spreadsheet and just every 2 weeks put in the information and just, calculate it down. I should probably do that for here. I've gotten a little lazy about this stuff because I don't have an office set up or anything that it's all just always there. So, okay.
Okay.
So was there anything else in last month's meeting minutes that were questioned on? Had
No, I
questions
don't
on?
have a problem with anything except the thing about Elizabeth Sheffy's her parents who were,
Right.
yeah,
Oh,
so
and the
I
other
got
thing,
that squared away from what you and Dina were talking about.
yeah,
What was the
the
thing
only
about
thing was in new burials, installation of stones and lot sales. Under C, you had 2 headstones were installed for the 2 orals. That was not actually the case. They're going to have 1 headstone,
Okay.
but it hasn't been installed yet.
Okay. Okay. Will be.
Yes,
Got
one
it.
headstone will be installed.
Okay. Got that.
Oh,
Sorry, Dina.
oh, this is totally okay with me. I went and I visited Janice on the way to town meeting.
Oh, nice.
I drove up to the cemetery and stopped there first and then turned around. I was like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Everything else look okay?
I think so. Yes. Yep. So I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
I will second that motion.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none. We'll do a roll call vote on the motion. Dina,
Aye.
Susan,
Aye.
and Walter, aye. That passes. Wow, that's the longest we've taken to get through minutes, I
It
think,
is.
ever.
But
Yeah.
there's math to
And
do,
we're dealing
so
with money.
what?
Numbers are always challenging for me.
Yeah.
For me too. That's why I sit so patiently because I'm so grateful other people are playing the game and not me.
Okay, next on the agenda, new burials, lot sales, and monument installations. There have been no new burials. There is a pending lot sale, a green burial lot sale for the Kilos who live on Pelham Hill Road. I met with them the other morning and they tentatively picked out a lot, but then they wanted to talk to the family to see if they were only going to buy two lots, or if they were going to buy four, if their children, one of their children is kind of into green burials, natural burial stuff, so they may be looking at purchasing more than the two lots for themselves. Um, but they're very interested. They've been talking about it for a while, and they finally said, "Can we meet, you know, Wednesday morning and do this?" Or whatever morning it was. I said, "Sure." So so there is a pending sale of 2 to 3 or 2 to 4 lots. I was also contacted by Notre Dame Monuments, and they have two headstones to put in. One for um, Bradshaw, which was the burial in Sawanka's lot, and one for Clark's, Charlie Clark, I believe. I've got to call her back, but uh, so
Well, that's good.
we have potentially a couple monuments coming in too.
Okay.
And that's all I have for that. Oh, we probably will be, there will be a burial towards the end of the month. Cremation burial for Jerry Carey. I don't know if you know him or not, but is one of the Carey family. He passed away the other day, so
Oh, sorry to hear.
yeah, he's been sick for a while, so
You spell Jerry with a J or a G?
I think it's Jerry, but I'm not positive. No, it might be a G. It might be a G because it's Gerald, so it would be a G.
Be a G.
So I'm assuming there's a Carry lot.
There is, yeah. The mother and father are both cremated and buried there, so they have an 8 plot lot. Just gotta, I'm waiting to talk to the family members and waiting to hear back from them on, I gotta meet with them as their placement where they want him on the lot, so we'll go from there, but they're looking at cremational burial towards the end of the month, which is coming
Walter,
up quick.
is the funeral home digging for that, or do you dig for that?
I dig for those,
That's
for
what I want.
cremational burials, yeah.
So our grounds guy, if you're away and we have a cremational burial, should we call him or should what
Yes,
do we do?
yeah, definitely. I feel better about him doing that than having, to have one of you go out there and try to do that.
I'd have to bring
And,
friends, but yes.
no, he's more than willing to do that. I just have to kind of meet with him and show him sometimes. So maybe when I'm doing this one, I'll have him come out and just stop by so you can see just how it
If
is that I do.
if you, throw me a text when you go over to do that, I might come too.
Okay.
How big around and how deep are you making
The
these?
size depends on the size of the urn. Usually, the shovel that I have, if I do, 2 blades wide square, is sufficient for anything I've done, except for I had one burial last year or the year before where they were actually doing a cement vault around the urn, which made it about 18 by 18, which meant a much bigger hole. And I found
Yes,
out about that right at the end, which is why in our little questionnaire is how big is the urn? Are you going to be using a vault or, whatever, you
all
know,
those things.
Yep, because you hate to have a small hole and have them show up and go, oh, we can't put this in.
I'm
It's like,
always so sad when somebody pays for a vault for a cremation burial because it just seems so ridiculous to me.
yeah,
So
but
are
I mean,
you
some of the urns that they put them in are
are
pretty darn
huge.
fancy too.
Yeah.
And
Are
some of them
you
are big.
doing so are you digging about 2 feet or more?
I go between 2 and 2.5.
Okay.
No, usually no more than that. I mean, when I first started, I'm thinking of building, we got to go 4 feet below the frost because I'd heard that, the frost gets in there and eventually will push the urns up if they're like a metal urn or something like that. I was like, well, we don't want to be sitting here a few years later and go, oh, hi, Fred, how you doing? Um, so I started then I realized that's way too deep because, what's the average person's arm length? 2.5 feet,
But you
if
can't put
that,
them in.
you
I've
can't,
had
you
that
can't
problem.
can't lower them
It's
in. So I
so
started doing it
awkward.
less. I started doing
So
like 3 feet, and then I said, no, no, we got to 2.5 is a good amount. So
it,
between 2 and 2.5.
and yeah, yeah, that sort of having to lay on your belly to put your sister's urn in the earth is a hard thing.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
Uh, although with the right family, it's okay.
Yeah. Although, when you're wearing good clothes and all that, you don't want to get down, especially if it's a rainy, muddy day. It's
All
like,
right.
yeah.
Uh,
So I learned that over time that, 2 feet is, or 2 to 2.5 feet is a good depth. And
that was my guess. I just wanted to confirm with you.
yep, that's
So
what
I
it.
would like to get notice too, okay? So
Sure. Yeah.
I see
As
what happens.
soon, yeah, as soon as I find out from them, where and then the exact date, because I think they're talking a little bit more in the afternoon. So usually I do it that morning. I don't like to dig it too long ahead of time. But if it's going to be early in the morning, I might do it in the evening the night before and just leave it covered. But yeah, yeah, I'll let you guys know so you
Okay.
can.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, okay. No, I don't I won't interject here.
Okay. Okay.
Wait.
Anything more on that then?
I don't think so.
Okay. So next on the agenda is the CPA grant. What is our next steps? I did send an email to Mateo this morning, basically asking that because 2 years ago they started that contract
Yeah.
afterwards, and that was the first year they did that, and that just took so long for them to figure out how they were going to do it that by the time we got it all signed and ready to go, tomorrow was already contracted to be
Yeah.
going out to Chicago all the time, and we really missed the window. And I explained that to him, and just a second, I'll pull up on my phone here if I can the email that I sent him, and then his. Yeah, here we go. So I sent this morning. I said, Mateo, thank you, the members of the Community Preservation Committee and the residents of Shutesbury that voted to approve our grant application. When will the contract be ready for us to obtain and sign? I assume that we need to wait until it is then, oh, for us to sign, then wait until it's signed by the select board before we can proceed with the project. I only ask as the process took a while to get through the last time. I understand that that was the first year of doing contracts, but it took so much time that we missed the window of available time for our contractor. This put the entire project behind by almost a year. For the sake of all involved, I would like to try to get this round of restoration done in a more timely manner. Please let me know when this contract will be ready for signing. Thank you in advance. He did answer me actually by 9:30. The select board signed this year's CPA grant agreements at their meeting last night.
Oh,
I'm
good.
I'm CCing Haley and Brennan on this email because once the town meeting awards the funding, the process is out of the CPC's hands and the town administrator takes over. So if they've
It's
already signed
awarded
it,
and we have to contact Haley and get the
right, contact Haley then and get a copy of that so we can sign it. Then we'll keep a signed copy. They'll keep a signed copy, I assume. And once that happens, I guess we can call Tamara up and say, go for it.
Great.
Sounds good. Sounds like we have much better fate. We are gonna move faster this year.
It does
Yes,
seem that way.
I definitely think so, because it didn't sound like when I was talking to her, she didn't sound like or say that she was really busy and she tried to fit it in on weekends and anything like before. She sounded like she was kind of anxious to get going on it. So let's hope that this works out better this time. Because it
Yeah.
would be nice to get it done and everything finished and the closeout report and all that all done in the same year instead of extending it for 2 years. I'm sure the CPC would appreciate, or CPA would appreciate that too.
Yeah. Good work.
CPC, excuse me. So I guess our next step then for the first round for the last grant is the stuff that Tamara sent with the pictures and what was done is actually in the email, the cemetery's email.
Okay,
So you could look that up, or I can just send it to you also to your email if you want. Um, then we've got it. I think there is some kind of, I saw something about there's like a closeout questionnaire or something that the CPC has or CPA has now that they might want us to do.
Like at
But
the end?
yeah, but we did kind of just a closeout report on the last one, I believe.
I think we did.
Yeah.
I
So I'll
don't,
have to, yes, that's actually because, yeah, you wouldn't have done that. That would have been Janice, I think, that did that. I'll have to see if I have a copy of that in our electronic files here.
okay.
Um, or see if they have a special form that they want to close out the last one, because that is all done. Tamara had sent the invoice. It was all paid. I think I did that. It was done just before town meeting. So at town meeting, if anybody had asked, "Oh, you're still doing that one?" Yeah, it was all done. Yeah, June 2nd, I sent it in for processing. That was the balance of $4,200. $3,200 came from the grant, $1,000 came from one of the matching funds. So that first round is all completed and done. So we
You
just
know,
have to,
I get, it gets a little confusing writing about just
yes,
the different, projects that Tamara has been doing for us.
yep,
But it's been sort of A, B, C, and we're on C now, I think.
I think
right,
so.
yes, because there was one that was done. It was originally the grant was like in 2015 or something like that. There was a lot of delays with that, with first getting the trees removed because we needed to do that before we did any restoration because a lot of the stones were in that area, or some of those stones were in that area. So that took a while with weather and contractors and everything else to finally get that done. Then we ran into the problem of, well, how do you go out to bid, using Mass 30B when we really didn't have a set number of stones that needed to be done. We had a set amount of money, but so then we actually, Tamara volunteered to do an analysis of different stones and all that as to what she felt was the ones that were most important. Then we used those stones with pictures of them and everything to go out to bid. And that process was actually pretty close. We only had her and one other company come back, and the prices were a bit different only because the other contractor was from the eastern part of the state and they would have had to come out, and they wanted to come out for however many days and then stay overnight. And so there was travel and motels and all that involved, where Tamara was close by and didn't have to do that. We made a set list of questions to ask all the references, and we kind of split those up. So say there was 8 references for each contractor.
Wow.
Janice took 4 from one contractor, 4 from the other, and I took 4 from one and 4 from the other. So we weren't doing all asking questions about the same contractor. We were asking questions about different contractors to different references, and they all came back actually really pretty good. So it came right down to price, and the fact of the matter, the other company was quite a bit higher because they had to have travel and rooming accommodations. So that's how we officially ended up with Tamara doing it. And then we've just kind of able to stay with her because we've been contracting with her. So.
I wish we had separate names for them, but you know, I mean, it's even challenging to about them in terms of dates because there's a date we got the grant and the date stuff was actually done.
Done. Yes. Yeah.
I guess there's no real way to give them a name, is there?
Unless we call
we
them
could
phases, phase
randomly
one,
name
phase two,
them.
phase three. Yeah.
We could randomly name them for our own convenience.
We could maybe name them for the most important stone that got taken care of in each stage.
Hmm. Yeah. Who's this?
X, etc.
Yeah, I was gonna say who's to say which is the most important stone though.
Well, we could just pick one,
Yeah.
or we could take the first letter in the alphabet of the group of stones that she did each time. You know, of the name of
Yeah.
the you know.
We don't want to just do it phase 1, phase 2, phase 3.
Yeah,
Or we could do both, like phase 1 was this section with this person's name in it and do it that way.
the thing about the phases, I'm game to call them by phase 1, 2, and 3, but right now, this is phase 2 of the second.
And we've been kind of referring it as phase one because we did the original thing, and then this one we said, well, there's this much, but we're going to divide it into 2,
Yeah,
unless we do the initial project, and then oh yeah,
second project.
yeah, was that?
Then the second project, phase 1 and phase 2.
Yeah, I guess that's how we're going to have to do it.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's funny when you start them, you don't think about it. Are we
Right.
ever going to be able to do this again or not? And believe me, the first one took so long to complete. That was almost like 5 years, I think, before we got it done.
Yeah.
I think that we were one of those grants that they kind of said, okay, we need to have a contract to say you need to get it done in so many years, within 2 years or something like that.
But it
But
wasn't necessarily anything that we were in control of.
no,
Right.
and the whole process was new too. I mean, the whole process was being made up as you went. So,
Yeah.
in a sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a learning curve, believe
Yeah.
me. But hopefully this one will go much better.
Yes.
All right. All right. So anything else on that?
No.
Not from
Okay,
me.
I don't think so. All right, next is instructions and guidelines for green and natural burials,
Oh, this
which we've
again.
been
So
yeah,
I sent that stuff to you guys for you to
yep,
read. It's more
yep,
than we think we need. Um,
yeah.
and the question was, well, I really have to pull this up. The question was, um, uh, what parts of this did we want to use?
Yeah, I create.
Susan pulled out some
Yeah, you
stuff, didn't you?
did. I
Yeah.
see
Yeah,
that.
that's this
The
one here.
condensation.
Yep.
It's
I
not
like this.
and at the end, I pooped out, and I just kind of it was shorter, and I just included towards the end the whole thing.
Thanks. Yeah. People can find what they need.
Yep.
So the legal concerns, I think we can leave that part out
Okay,
because I don't think there are any legal concerns. There
okay,
are there is no state in the nation in which green burial is illegal. There are limiting cemetery regulations, but those are not statutory.
okay.
Those are local customs and preferences. They make it sometimes seem like it's statutory, but they're lying.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, for the longest time, I thought it was a Massachusetts regulation that you needed to have in a vault because it was made to seem like you got to have a vault. And I had heard that from other people when I came on. Oh yeah, we have to have vaults. And then the more I looked into it, it's like, no, we don't. I'm looking through the mass law saying, well, where is it? I spent a couple days looking through them at different times, and I could never find anything. And they come to find out, oh no, that's not a mass regulation.
No,
That's a local,
it's
you
a
know,
local custom,
local custom, if you
and
will. Yeah,
mostly it's the funeral homes can sell it.
yeah. It's a
So
marketing thing,
I never
and
argue with people when they're using vaults because they've made their choices long before I got there. I don't need to say anything about it, but it breaks my heart every time.
yeah.
So
Well, I mean,
I
the
think we
way it's
should leave
sold,
out the
it's
part
they.
about legal concerns. Um, um, right. I think
So I guess one of the things we want to talk about, because we haven't done it yet, is do we want to allow people to dig the grave by themselves with oversight from us? Or do we want to use a contractor like we have been?
I think for families who want to dig and it's going to be a small
Very small, yeah.
really it's a lot of work to dig a grave. So it's going to be a small contingent.
Right.
Um, I don't see why we should regulate against people who want to dig. I think one of us should be present. And I think there's that becomes, well, this is interesting. So I want to just say, sure, let people dig, but responsibly as a cemetery commissioner, I have to consider the town's liability. And
Right. So if
therefore,
we were going to do that, I think we'd have to have them sign a liability release.
I think they'd have to sign a release. I think one of us would have to be there. I just
Yep. To
think
make
that's
sure they stay to the
appropriate,
regulations, the proper size, location, depth,
right? So that
everything.
we're sure they're going to the right spot. And the other thing about it is, I am wondering if for these green burial, um, if we should have on hand in the hearse house, um, a couple of pieces of plywood, 6 feet by or 7 feet um,
Two
by
feet
like
or
3.5 feet with some handles on it, two, metal handles screwed into it so they can be lifted out to hold the
oh,
sides
yeah,
because of the sand, but also gives people a depth guide,
Oh,
right.
right.
right?
Yep.
So it does both things. It reduces the cave in from sand and
Yep.
and that we also keep in the hearse house a little step stool so that people
Yeah, a
who are
little ladder or
for
something so they
themselves
can get
have
out.
a little ladder.
Yeah, it's almost getting to the point where we might want to look at maybe a small, like one of the 20-foot um storage containers, shipping containers
Oh,
to put, and
interesting.
that could stay up in the back because it can be
Yeah,
locked. And so things like that, like boards to go around because you not only need the ones on the side, but you need planks
there's
or
no room in
plywood
no room
that's,
in the hearse
2 feet
house.
wide by 8 feet long, and then top for the sides, and
Yeah,
then
for the
top and
sides and,
bottom.
and to place a body on top of. So I
Yeah.
think if we had some green burial supplies on hand for families who want to bury themselves, that would be immensely considerate of us and doable without a lot of hassle. If we got, there's no room in the hearse house. We really need a new container.
It's getting really tight in there. It really is. I mean, sometimes to get one piece of equipment out, you got to move two to get to another thing, and
Yeah,
it's just it wasn't really designed to store as much stuff as it has
as
in
it
there
does.
now. Yeah.
Well, that's
Yep.
interesting. I mean, yeah, that would be interesting. And I think that, well, if we do if we buy a big ugly storage container, I want to get somebody to paint a mural on the side of it. So it's
Yeah, I
a
agree.
beautiful
Yeah.
aspect of our cemetery instead of something ugly.
Right.
And that's doable too. We could do that.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, could even or either that or just one of those prefab wooden,
Sheds.
storage sheds.
Yeah.
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 Because it wouldn't have to be that, it wouldn't have to be super
No, I just
big.
don't
And
want it to be something ugly.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think if we use one of the storage sheds, as long as we have a door that we can lock, it should be fine.
Yeah.
Um, and that would be something, we'll have to look at the prices of them. And it would almost be better not to have windows in it. Um,
So people
and
can't see what's inside.
can't see what's inside, and also, windows are easy enough to jimmy or break open and get in
Yeah.
there. So we could get something that's just a garden shed, wood shed, and I would do a wooden one, not one of those cheap metal ones. They come in, it's all prefab, all pre-built. They just drop it off there. That would look nicer. Probably go, much look better, better well placed in the cemetery than a metal storage container. And as long as we can lock it, things like all the green burial stuff, even the cremational burial stuff, and the wheelbarrows, because
Yeah.
lots of times the only time to use the wheelbarrow is when we're doing, the cremations, and those are all stood up on end in the back. And so when you get to those, you got to move everything else out to get to it. Um, and then even if, like Carl is using there's a trailer, like a wagon trailer that goes behind the mowers, you can just drive the mower up there, take it out of the other shed, put it on, and use it. So it would make the hearse house safer, and get
Which
rid
would
of
be
some of
good.
those things that you know, we do need to have more equipment, and the more you put in there, it's going to make it unsafe where things are falling
Yeah.
over and somebody's going to get hurt trying to get to something. So that may be
So
something we want to look at.
that
Yeah,
makes
and
sense to
I
me.
don't, given how crowded the hearse house is, I don't think we want people who aren't cemetery people in there.
In it.
Oh, no, no. And something like this, one of us would have to be there to open it up and get the stuff out and
Which
Yeah.
is
have it
true with
for
the
them.
shed anyway, but still, I think it's safer to have a different space.
Yeah.
And so that's interesting. The only other piece really is, returning to these, uh, this document that Susan pulled together for
Right.
us.
Yeah.
Okay, so can we call that up so we can all see it and talk about it
I
together?
can share my screen, I guess.
Great.
Let's see if that works.
Because I didn't print it off tonight, and I don't know whether it's in
See.
I'll find it.
my folder.
Oh, can you
Do
turn
what?
on sharing?
Yeah, so I'm just going to share screen.
I could also just email it to you if you want me to.
Well, actually, you sent it to me, right? Yeah, you
No,
sent it to everyone.
I've got the one that, I'm
Maybe,
looking at the one that,
Yeah,
Susan
Susan sent.
sent us on May 21st.
Yep. Okay. Let me.
maybe it's probably in our cemetery.
It is, that's where I got it.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just looking to see because allow participants to share screen. Okay.
There we go.
Um,
Okay, I will share my screen.
can you?
Let me see if I
Did I do that
can.
right? Can you do it?
Yeah, I can do it. We're good.
Okay. Very good. If you got
You
it right
guys
there,
see
there you
this
go.
now?
Yep. There you go.
Cool.
I can see it.
So, uh, So we should, it looks like, starting from the top, we need to create a document about, um, uh, grave digging,
Yeah.
safety
Yep.
practices.
And that could be a separate document, so it wouldn't have to be in part of this, right?
Although it seems like it's here.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think that's fine if it's here.
Yeah, because it's general safety guidelines for grave digging. Yeah.
Yeah, and,
And always be an experienced grave digger in charge of any
but I
grave
do
digging
think
group.
it, what she's suggesting is that we establish regulation and rules in regard to how tools are to be handled. I mean, we are going to have to address this
Right.
and go over it, but I think this is pretty, I like this. I would like us to have, if we can for this next cremated remains burial, if we could have a little, like a clinic. I think that's why Susan and I want to be there, because we haven't seen it done.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
it would be good, for cemetery commissioners all to have the same visual experience anyway.
Sure.
So really, it would be nice to have a little video that we could let people see that would be on our website and people could take a look at.
That'd be cool.
Hmm.
Do we have somebody in town hall who could take a little video of us?
I could do it.
Oh, okay.
I'll just bring my phone.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that, we're gonna have to have sideboards. I mean, thinking about
Yeah.
things at the
Yeah. If we're
funeral,
going to let people do it, we definitely need to have
yeah,
sideboards and
things that funeral homes supply that we would need to have.
a lots of times though that stuff is supplied by either the excavator if they're doing it or like even like the boards that on any of this
The coffins are laid on.
yeah coffins at any funeral all that stuff is actually supplied by the vault company. Even the chairs usually, and if there's an awning, that's all on the vault company that sets that stuff up.
Oh, that's so interesting. But if you're not using a vault,
Then yeah,
then the
I'm not
funeral
sure if
home must figure out
the
how to do
funeral
it.
home they probably have some chairs, but they don't have any of that other stuff that they carry around.
But we don't really need it for a green burial. I mean, the two ceremonies I've been to, they were just outdoors, open in the
Yeah,
open.
oh, the chairs, no, we don't, but the wood that goes on the ground around the hole and all that. In in this last one, it was the excavator that provided the boards,
Okay.
and usually it is the vault company, but Green Burial, there was no vault company, but the excavator supplied those because he's been doing green burials, and I don't think even Clark's have anything like that. They usually just for the regular, full burials, caskets, and traditional or whatever you want to call it, not traditional, but the
Conventional.
modern burial. Um, they just dig the hole, and all that other stuff is supplied by the vault company. When they set the vault, they set up all the boards, the green, covering, the casket lowering device, and all that. That's all the vault company. I don't think any of the funeral homes around, or maybe few of them, if any, actually have that stuff.
No, I bet they don't.
No.
And
It's really interesting. But they're gonna have to figure it out. And
yeah.
Yep.
and and I do, the green burial is so not going away. Um,
Oh no, no.
I should
That's
talk,
why
I'll talk
if we're
to
going to allow
Rebecca.
people to do that, I definitely think we need to invest in the stuff that's going to make it safer.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah.
So, what else do we see besides sideboards and, figuring out something that can slide in to prevent cave-in? We're gonna need a ladder, a little step
Yep.
ladder. What else for our green burial stuff? I mean, I think we're getting there.
Yeah, I mean, it
Well,
wouldn't hurt to have, I don't know if you can like if you can still buy it or not, but like that, it was that indoor outdoor, they called it AstroTurf, the fake grass stuff that they typically use. I mean, I have some small pieces that I use actually for the cremational burials out of some stuff that I used to have that all got thrown away when we were used to go camping. But I don't know if you can buy that or not, but having something like that that covers the boards and looks a little nicer than,
There is no green burial that wants an AstroTurf
okay,
material near it.
all right,
yeah,
then we don't need that.
boards is important.
Yeah,
I think the boards are the aesthetic of the boards just being there plain.
yeah.
I was at a green burial in Pennsylvania. I haven't seen you guys in a while. I was at a green burial in Pennsylvania, and it was so interesting for me as a cemetery commissioner. I watch these things very differently than I did as a celebrant. So
Yeah.
I'm like looking at the mechanics and what they do, and how they're digging. They have a little excavator and what they're doing, but the boards, I was thinking about with the boards because it was like a bizarrely, there was a snow squall that was unexpected and sort of
Oh,
unusual,
jeez.
and it was a difficult morning for the ground, and it was a little wet, and um the boards and the dirt on the boards um were aesthetically pleasing somehow to
Hmm.
everybody. Like, oh, we're not
Very
talking
natural.
about what this
Yeah,
is.
this is the way it is. Yep.
Yeah. So I
It's
would
not
say
it's
we
not
don't need.
many of the funerals now are so dressed up and almost fake in a lot of the stuff. So,
Yeah, I find it, what always shocks me is leaving a burial site before the body is lowered,
yeah.
Yeah,
which is really customary now, and I'm deeply disturbed by it every time. Even if I'm expecting it, I feel uneasy when I leave.
Hmm.
It just, but they don't want you to watch for some
haven't
reason.
seen completion. You don't have closure.
You have no closure, and so yeah, no, it's very, but and it's very squeamish. It's changing, but I think it's not good for the people to do
Hmm.
that, to walk away before they've lowered a grave the casket.
I think a lot of it is all on the people's perspective,
Well, and
what they're expecting, what they've been taught to expect,
the
and all
custom
that.
of the cemetery and the custom of the funeral home. Like,
Right.
some funeral homes give you an option and some don't. It's really
Yep.
very. So anyway,
Yeah,
we're
because
gonna
I know
see how.
I there was one I was at, and the people were like, we'd like to see the body go down, and they were like, oh, okay. And luckily, the vault company guy had just come. Was off to the way off to the side, or he left, and he had just come back. And we're like, hey, you need to come up here. We need to, the people want to have the casket lowered while they're still here. He goes, oh, okay. So, he had to get this little tool and come up and do it because the funeral director didn't even have the tool to lower it.
Right,
So,
right. I have a question relative to green burial and our three cemeteries, which is right now the only cemetery you can have a green burial in town is the West Cemetery.
that's
Are
correct.
we going to expand this privilege, I guess I would say, to the other two cemeteries?
Um, we can take a look at it. I mean, at first it was, to tell you the truth, when it was brought up to us, I was totally naive about, green barrels. I knew really nothing about them. It was something brand new to me. Working with, the Board of Health, like I said, we went through 6 or 7 revisions of the
Right,
regulations to meet their standards and what was known by the people involved for green burials at the time. We had to do the deep soil sample, it's almost like a perk test. They dig like a
Yeah,
7 foot
no,
hole
there's a whole
to
process.
find the historic high water mark and all that. And with the amount of graves that were available, at least at Pratt Corner for sale, it wasn't really thought of. The Locks Pond Road Cemetery has, I think, a bit more. I'd have to look at the map, but I think that has a bit more lots that are available for sale there. So it might be worth looking at an area to say, do we want to do it or not, and figure out what the expense is to do it.
I want to suggest that especially in these small cemeteries, it doesn't have to be a specific section.
Okay.
That green burial doesn't just happen, and where what we're seeing in hybrid cemeteries, in municipal hybrid cemeteries like ours, where there's green burial and there's conventional burial. Especially because all of the old burials were green,
Right.
right? Um,
Yeah.
all of the old burials were green. I just wonder if we don't have to make a specific section, but that people, when they buy a plot at Lock's Pond, could say, I want a green burial or I want a conventional burial.
Okay, well, one thing that I'm thinking, looking at this the second paragraph, talks about what happens in green space with regard to chemical pest and nuisance animal control. Um, that that would be I would think that would be an issue.
Tell me where you're looking.
Well,
I don't.
Okay, in this paragraph, right? Go back up. This long
right there.
paragraph look at the second sentence.
What happens in green space with regard to chemical pest and nuisance animal control, along with maintenance schedules and chosen best practices, stays in that area, making it. But we're not doing pest control and nuisance.
No, we don't use
We're not
any
poisoning anything.
fertilizers. We don't use any pest control. We don't use any sprays or anything.
Okay, then
I think we have like one can of ant spray that we used in the Hearst house when it was getting infected or infested with ants, and that's it. We don't use anything out on the grounds other than the mowers.
I think that's wonderful, and I think we should probably say that.
I agree.
Sure.
What I'd like to do, are we allowed to create a working meeting, Susan, you and I, where we go through this whole document and piece something together to bring back to Walter, so that as a group we can review it? And I mean, I'd like to get this done.
Yes, what we could do, I
two
think,
heads are better than one.
to be able to do that, I think if we made the two of you a work committee on this,
Okay.
to be brought, as long as no votes are being taken or nothing else is being discussed other than this,
Okay.
then we can do it.
We
Okay.
could meet at town hall sometime convenient for both of us and sit with computers and run through it.
Okay, I have to point out to you that I'm for the third year in charge of the Amherst League of Women Voters book sale.
Bless your heart.
On most of the month of July. So it's hard for me to do anything else in July.
So let's wait till August.
Okay.
I mean, we have time. I
Yeah.
want to do it right. I think we're making good progress. I think we're at a place where we could realistically, if we sat down together sometime in the beginning of August before our meeting, pull together something that will be a real proposal for language and get up on the website.
Yeah, I think certainly that's doable.
Okay. Thank you for doing the League of Women Voters book sale.
Quite sufficient, though.
Oh.
All right. So should we, I guess we can do it this way. I'll make a motion that we create what do we want to
A work committee?
call? Yeah, a working group to go over the instructions and guidelines for green and natural burials,
That sounds great.
consisting of 2 of the cemetery members, and I would like to nominate Dina Standard and Susan Millinger to fill those positions.
I'll second that motion.
Okay,
Okay. Do we have any further discussion on creation of that group, working group?
no,
Uh, The only thing I would say is just when you're going to do it, if you post it so it's nobody can say anything, or let me
Sounds
know and I
good.
can post it for you or whatever.
okay.
Okay,
All
thanks,
right.
Rob.
So with that, we'll take an official vote. So to the roll call vote, Dina,
Aye.
Susan,
Hi,
and I'll vote aye also. Okay.
Yes. I will stop sharing my screen.
The only question I have about this one, I just to get your guys' feeling is where it says the importance of safety, along with embalmers who experience higher risk of contracting leukemia and ALS, groundskeepers risk COPD and other respiratory and neurological diseases through repeated exposure to toxic pesticides and herbicides in conventional lawn cemeteries. Seeing we don't do that, do we need to have that in there or not?
I think
Okay,
no.
we could
okay,
easily lift that and it would be fine.
all right.
Yeah,
That's
make
I'll let
clear.
you guys work on that, but that was just a comment that I had on
No,
it.
that's good. Yeah, I don't think we don't need to sell anybody on the idea of green burials, so
No, no.
we don't need to keep that stuff in. And thank you for entertaining the idea of expanding availability to other cemeteries. I assume we're just going to keep talking about it until we come up with
Yeah,
some.
I mean, I've had other people ask me, is there green barrels in the other cemeteries? And my answer was always no, not at this time.
Exactly.
It's something we'll have to look into. So I guess one of the things I could ask Catherine sometime if we are thinking about doing it into the other cemeteries, given the size of the cemetery and the amount of lots that are available, could we do, one test hole somewhere and then say that we don't have to necessarily designate a green burial anywhere, but that people could say,
Except
I
for the
want either green burial and natural burial in this lot.
except for the small handful, and Catherine will understand this innately, except for the small handful of modern conventional burials that have gone in on Locks Pond, um, they're green.
Yeah, well, yeah, we've done most of them have been cremations that I've been doing.
Right. They're either cremation.
Matter of fact, of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 burials that I've done there, they've all been cremations.
I don't, so that's the thing with that cemetery. Everything there is green or a cremation burial. So,
So we would be keeping it as it in its current condition.
yeah,
Yeah.
and just allowing cremation burials in a green cemetery, which is fine.
Well, we're not excluding if somebody bought a lot
Right.
there and wanted to do a
Exactly.
conventional.
Exactly. So, yeah,
All right. I'll approach Catherine
okay.
and ask her
And
how
we
she
can sort
feels,
of,
how she would feel about that, and how we need to go about it. If we just need to get somebody to do the limited soil sample or whatever that was called,
right.
and to prove where the conventional high water mark is. And believe me, where that sits on the top of the hill, you're not going to find a high water mark.
No.
Not at all, because it just drops off on all sides.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much all sand in back there too. I mean, there are in back of that cemetery, I probably shouldn't say this because people go looking for them, but in back of that cemetery is some fox dens.
Ooh,
And they've just dug out into the sand. There's big piles of sand out there, and they've just dug into the sand embankment. And
a good place to be.
yep.
Singing with the ghosts. That's a very ghosty little cemetery, I've got to say.
Yeah.
Of
Yep.
of the three of them,
Yeah.
That's the one where I've felt like I'm not alone there.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on the guidelines for now? Because you guys are gonna go work on that at some point. So,
Not for me.
okay. So
Susan,
I will take that off the agenda now till you guys have met and we're ready to put it back on.
okay.
Okay. All right. Okay, moving on then, current financial status. I ran all these numbers. So there have been some additional equipment. We did the clips and we got the other blades. At the last meeting, I had talked to Susan about this project I've been wanting to do, and it felt like a good time to do it because we had some funds available that we weren't allocated for anything yet. Is I wanted to change the markers that are in the West Cemetery that are used for delineating the roads and the measuring points because they've all been, metal rods that stick out of the ground, a foot, which are dangerous for people falling on them. And it's hard to mow around them. They've been hit by the mowers, they've been knocked out and stuff like that. And create these pins that are what I worked out best for length is like 20 inches long. They're half-inch iron pipe, and I'm welding. They're 3-inch diameter, quarter-inch thick washers with a half-inch hole. Weld them together, and they can be driven down in those places that for measuring, lots out. And we only
Oh, so you
have
can stick a
stick
a
a,
pole in the
a
hole
rod in there,
inside.
and I had made before trying to make something that I did rebar with the same size washers welded to them, left a little bit sticking up, but they're a little too far high, and the mowers would catch on them, and also because of the way it welded to the rebar, it made the rebar brittle, and sometimes the tops would break off. But we still have some of those that you can just drop in the hole then. So it's going to be flush to the ground with a little open
Yeah.
hole, open bottom so it drains, it won't hold water. And we put them at the side of the road, each road, and then a designated distance down that road on each side. So you'd have 2 or 3 on each side of the
As you
road
go,
on
yeah.
every road. So you didn't have to go all the way to the middle and pull the tape, 150, 175 feet up. You could go to the 100-foot mark or the 150-foot mark and measure off, and it would delineate the sides of the roads. So we knew where they were. Now that we've had it electronically mapped, we know where they really should be. Um, and then just, as I get them made, go ahead and put them in the ground. And also in the new section, the newer section and where the green burial is too, because there again, there's the old pipes sticking out of the ground. And lots of times, you know, at least Susan and Mike used to put branches in them so you could see them better. Well, now you've got this dead branch sticking out of a piece of pipe sticking out of the ground. Really isn't safe and really doesn't look very nice.
Yeah.
So we approved me to purchase the materials to do this. So how much did we allocate? I think I came in underneath that, but minutes.
You said, we authorized less than $600.
Okay, all right. So the total came out to, let me add that up right now. Came up to $594.53.
Wow.
And I actually picked up a little bit more material than I had originally said. So I actually have enough for 78 pins or posts. Did get a deal at Home Depot because if you bought more than 5, they reduced it by 15%, the
Ah,
price, which was good. But then they said they had 12, but they only had 9. and I needed at least 12. So then I went over to Lowe's. They had them for the exact same price, the original price, but no discount on them. I picked up 4 there. And then through Granger, I ordered, they came in lots of 50. So I got 100 of these heavy duty washers. So we have enough to make now, and we'll have them for if we need them in the future. Um,
So this,
so I've already started, I've made 3 of them just to test it, how the welding worked on them. I ran out of welding wire, so I had to get new stuff for that. But I did spend some time. I've cut all the pipe into 20-inch sections, and they've all been an angle ground on them, and the holes opened up for prepping them for welding. So,
Thank you.
yeah,
so I think that will be much better. I'm thinking for people in the future too, not having to, because there's only one post on each road.
Yeah, the
So to
only other
really,
way to do it is with stone, and
yeah, yeah. So
it costs more.
figured if we put them, because what I'd have to do is go between 2 of the posts and then drive stakes in, temporary stakes in along the line, stretch a line. Therefore I bought that roll of line.
Yeah.
um, and put the pins in and then measure off of those from, if you're all the way up to one end of the cemetery, you're 180 feet, and then you put a pin in, and then you got to go off the other one 180 feet. Whereas if these are all in place, both on the roads and in the division of the 36 feet of lots, in the middle, it makes it easier to square everything up. And you know, it would make life a lot easier for me in the present and anybody in the future to do it. And be safer because we won't have posts sticking out of the ground for somebody to fall on or trip on.
I have a strange question. Did you have Mr. Jock for mechanical drawing in junior high school?
I did have Mr. Jock,
So I
yes.
am just listening to this, listening to the I'm having
Flashbacks.
proud. He'd be proud. Walter. So did I. So they don't teach mechanical drawing anymore, but it gives
No.
you really good skills.
Yep. Yeah. All right. So,
And eighth grade engineers.
this is going to kind of throw the balance off because I included the 143.52 in this. So actually, yeah. So we got to add to whatever the total was that we had, or the subtotal minus 594.53 should come out to in the expense. It should leave us $376.07 in the expense account.
tell me that again, 366.72.
No, $376.07.
Okay,
So the materials bought for that project, the measuring location pin, whatever you want to call those things, the total for the materials was $594.53.
So essentially, we're ending the fiscal year with a little bit of money in the bank, and we've spent well.
Right the moment, but we still have a little bit of, because that doesn't roll over. We still have some
Right.
time. I mean, I could go out and buy some paint to paint these, which isn't going to be much. I would get like a Rust-Oleum quart
Yeah.
or half gallon and just spray them. That would be the easiest way. Spray can paint isn't gonna work as
No.
well, and you go through it's a lot of wastefulness on it. So I could get some paint. I don't know if there's anything else we really, really need, but at least we've used most of it in a responsible way, projects that
Yeah,
needed to be done.
yeah, definitely.
I agree.
Okay, so that's done. So our balance for cemetery wages at this point, and then Carl's still got some more time to put in, and I've got some time in on this that I haven't put in for. Currently, right now, cemetery wages, the balance is $2,735.98.
Got it.
And the expenses is the 376.07. In the CPA funds, in the Preserve Historic West Cemetery gravestones, balance is 0 because we've used that up. And in the Gift Restore West Cemetery gravestones, that is 0. Um, s- Still that I think that we're going to be able to use for some other stuff is we have the rehabilitate West Cemetery Hearst House that's left over from when they did that. There's $1,000 left in that. So we could use that eventually for doing repairs or repainting the hearse house. Um, in the Historic Commission, we have the Cemetery Historic Preservation gift of $3,000, which I think we were using some of that for this round of the CPA.
Yep.
There is a line for cemetery tree gift that was in removing some of the trees. There's $467 left in that. And then there's a hearse house expense that has a balance of $500. And in our cemetery expendable trust fund, there's a balance of $6,824.56 currently.
You've got a lot of accounts to manage there.
It is a lot of
Yeah.
lines. It's interesting.
And so the two projects that were going on, the West Cemetery gravestone restoration, that project was $11,000. Was expended $11,000. That's cleaned off the books. And the West Cemetery mapping and ground penetrating radar, that was a total of 13,500. We've expended 13,500. So there's no outstanding on that. So everything we have in those accounts, except for the historic preservation gift, which is going to be a matching for um the project. I think we might have even put some of our own operating money into that. Um, Everything's accounted for.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, would you let Carl know that I cruised by after Memorial Day? I was up in the cemetery to see something, and it looked really nice.
Okay,
Just
I will
want to
let him
say
know.
so.
Yeah. All right, yeah, so going on, next thing was maintenance and groundkeeper update. Yeah, I think Carl's been doing a wonderful job. He's been very attentive. Um, last, not last Sunday, but the Sunday before, I did go down to the Pratt Corner Road Cemetery and buck up that tree, which was bigger than it looked like in the picture. I mean,
Oh,
I
the,
noticed it was really big, and it was right across the entry, and it fell flat, but didn't hit
didn't
the
damage
wall
anything. Didn't, well, it damaged the wall a little bit.
a
It,
little.
yeah, there is some rocks that came down.
Yeah, but it
But it
didn't leave
didn't
any
damage any
markers.
headstones or anything.
Yeah,
And
that was a big
that tree
tree.
was on the other side of the
The
wall,
wall.
and the whole bottom had just rotted out, and the whole thing just came over. And it was even cutting them up to 16-inch lengths. They were pretty heavy to pick up.
I was
I did donate some of that wood to somebody that burns wood, and all the big stuff, I just put it by the side of the road and said somebody else can take it.
They do.
Yep, I figured it wouldn't last there very long, but you have to cut that up and then clean up all the small branches and leaf blow all the sawdust and all that.
You know,
It was
you can't
about
even
five
tell it fell
hours.
down though, Walter. And that was the thing, because when I came back again, when they finally opened my road and I came back
Yeah,
again, I was like, wow, you can't tell that that tree fell down.
yeah, yeah. Well, that
Yeah,
was the goal, to make it look like it never happened.
yeah.
Yeah.
oh, I lost.
It did make quite a hole. One of the branches went right down and I couldn't get it out. So we cut it down at just below ground level and then took some of the dirt from the side of the road and just kind of filled in the hole and smoothed it out. And
It was really interesting to come around the corner, and I realized how I always look into that cemetery when I come around
yep,
because it's my job now.
right.
So
Yeah,
I check it out with a certain eye, like how are things going? How are there's
yeah.
a very rare, very tiny orchid that grows
Yeah, you
there.
mentioned that
It
last
only
year.
gets like yay tall. So I love it there. It's a special
Yeah.
spot. And I came around and the tree was there, and I was like, well, that wasn't there yesterday.
No, like I said, I had spent some time there the Sunday just before it came down, getting rid of all the leaves and
Yeah,
stuff. And because Carl had kind of mowed it, but he didn't have time to clean the leaves. I said, well, I got to get down there and do that. So it was the Sunday before Memorial Day. So Memorial Day weekend. And I went down there thinking, it's not going to be that bad. And yeah, it
there's a
ended
huge
up
tree.
about 5 hours of getting all those because they were
So
so wet and heavy mixed with sticks and all that. It was
we
just,
don't
oh my
call the
God.
highway department when that happens, Walter, because that's what I would have done.
I don't think they would have come out and done it, to tell you the truth. And would they have done it the way we wanted them? I wanted it done. Maybe not. So, I mean, I've done that before. I've cleaned up. Oh, you're talking about the trees or the leaves?
The tree, not the
Oh,
leaf.
the tree. Yeah, they might have, but I don't think they would have cleaned up after themselves either.
No,
I'm
they
not
would have
sure.
left. Yeah,
Right. So that's all right. I mean, that's part of, now at least I get paid $18 an hour to do it rather than me just volunteering like I used to do. So,
yes.
um, yeah, it's good. It gets it taken care of the way we want.
Thank you.
But speaking about that though, there is like three sections of the stone walls in that cemetery that have kind of collapsed
Yeah.
in, and yeah, we might want to see. I don't know who does stuff like that. I've seen a couple signs around for, stone walls repair if somebody has the
Whirlwind might
knowledge to
do
do
it.
that. Was that?
Whirlwind might do it. And there might just be somebody, sorry, somebody in town who does it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because I'm not that big on, I mean, I've built a lot of stone walls around here for gardens and all that, but I was a little bit younger and really don't feel like, and those older ones, I just don't feel like getting into lifting all
No,
those rocks and putting them back in and all that. So,
yeah.
Plus, they're probably inhabited.
I'm
oh yeah,
guessing
there's all
what
kinds of inhabitants in those stone walls. Yes. Yeah.
that sounds
Hmm.
good.
All right. Yeah. So, yeah, I think just things with Carl are going really good. So,
Good.
um, oh, next thing on the agenda we already talked about was the road marker lot measuring pin project update. So we kind of covered that in the current financial status. So that's all done. I did put, there's a person, which was Elizabeth Sheffy, possibly interested in being groundskeeper for the Pratt Corner Road Cemetery. I put it in on the agenda, hoping that, at this point she might have come back because the ball's kind of in her court right at the moment. But Dina, if you want to give her a call and
Yeah, I'll
if you
send
know
her
her
a
and
note
talk to her,
and say
see
come
if
to the
she's
meeting.
see if she's really interested in it or not. Um, that's all I had on the agenda. Unless there's any other unfinished business or new business not anticipated 48 hours prior to
Not that we
the
haven't
meeting.
covered.
Nope, I don't believe
Was
so.
okay. All right. So set date for next meeting. Um, I think
The
seeing we've
16th,
got the stone restoration project coming up, we should definitely have a meeting.
16th.
July 16th, yep.
Okay.
Okay. So at some point, we need to decide who's doing some of the work on the report.
The work on
Yeah,
what?
the report, the
Oh,
closeout report on the last
Or
phase of the grant, CPA grant. Would you
if you,
like me to
if you want me to draft,
contact Mateo and see what they have, if they have a form for doing a closeout report, or do they want us to just write what we did and all that? Okay, I'll contact him on that and see if they have an actual form or stuff that they want us to follow. If not, I'll try to find what the last one looked like, if that is sufficient for him or what. And then
Sounds good.
then I can get that to you, Susan, and if you need help, we can, I can help you with that, working on that.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna write that on my notes right here, things to do. Okay. All right. So next meeting, July 16th, 6 PM. Anything else?
Not from me.
Not for
Okay.
me.
I'll accept the motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second,
Okay. All right. Any discussion? Okay, didn't think so. All right, all in favor, roll call vote. Susan,
aye.
Dina,
Aye.
and I'll vote aye also. All right. Thank you very much.
Pleasant to visit
Another,
with you both.
Oh,
and
thank
I'm
you
gonna,
all.
hold on, let me
for all you're doing.
stop the recording here.